You deserve a relationship that has both security and chemistry. Don't settle. Wait until you do not have to choose between the two. You see, chemistry has gotten kind of like a bad rep lately. You know, like, don't trust the butterflies, chemistry is bad. And here's the thing. If you want a romantic relationship with someone, there has to be some sort of physical connection. There has to be chemistry. And chemistry is not just physical. There's intellectual chemistry, there's psychological chemistry, there's emotional chemistry. But you don't have to choose between the insanely intense chemical relationship and then just the boring, safe relationship. You see, you don't want either one. You don't want the relationship that has so much fire in it that it's unstable. And you don't want a relationship that has so much earth and stone and stability that you don't feel alive. We all deserve both. But there's a lot of nuance here that needs to be explored. Number one, chemistry can be incredibly unreliable. The moment you meet someone and you are attracted to them, for whatever reason, you are attracted to them, is the moment that you are at risk of looking at them with your rose-colored glasses, and instead of seeing the red flags are diffused into a very pretty pink. Chemistry can make us make really terrible decisions. It can make it so that we justify spending time with someone who doesn't share our values or who doesn't want this to cultivate the same kind of life that we want to cultivate for ourselves and build with someone else. Some people have chemistry with people who are abusive to them and mean to them and terrible to them because that's familiar. And they have chemistry because they're going after a particular type. So today I'm not going to talk about why we have chemistry with the wrong people. That will be another episode. But I am going to talk about the importance of security and chemistry in a relationship and what that actually means in a long-term relationship. So here's the truth. Immaturity says, I want to have the intense beginning honeymoon phase forever. I don't want that to ever end with someone. And not only do I want that, that's my expectation. I want to have butterflies around this person always. I want to feel the uncertainty, the fun uncertainty and novelty around them always. It just doesn't work like that. You know, when we are in a long-term relationship, we get to know someone really well. A lot of us will live with the person. We'll see them, you know, when we see each other, when we're not our sexiest, you know, and the more we build the friendship side of a relationship, and here's the truth, research proves that at the core of a strong long-term relationship is friendship. So it's really important. But if you're just nurturing the friendship side, and you're not nurturing the exciting side and the passion side, then it's just going to feel really safe, and then you're going to feel like something's missing. And then if you're with someone where it's just fireworks and there's no stability, it's going to feel like total chaos. Chemistry can be entirely unreliable. We want to have chemistry with people who are good for us and we are good for them. And we want to know how to sustain chemistry over the long term. You cannot sustain the kind of intensity that happens in the first couple of months of knowing someone and starting a relationship with someone forever. You can't. And that's a sort of grief that in a mourning that we all have to sort of experience if we want to have the experience, the benefits, and the beauty of long-term relationship. Because when you're in a relationship that's healthy, measured by respect, trust, and safety, and you're attracted to each other, maybe you're not attracted to each other every moment of every day, but you're still drawn to each other. That kind of relationship gives us strength, and it's not perfect, and you will go through some hard times, and you'll have to figure out, time apart and time together and all of that. But it ultimately gives you strength. And a relationship that lacks stability takes away all our strength. Really does. Because when a relationship lacks the foundation of stability, of safety, trust, and respect, the amount of energy, mental, physical, psychological, emotional energy that it takes for us to just sustain that relationship is so immense that it burns us out. It's absolutely exhausting. And then, a lot of people, they get out of a relationship like that and they think, I'm never going to be in a relationship again, because they equate love with that kind of chaos, when really it's not it's not love that creates the chaos. It's the kind of love that we're choosing and building with another person. And this is why we have to take total responsibility. And that means taking full responsibility for maintaining attraction in a long-term relationship.
This episode is sponsored by O Positive. O Positive is a women's health company. They offer a range of symptom-targeting supplements that support women at every stage of her life, from her first period to well beyond her last. And they are very proud to have best-selling women's health products at Target and Amazon. And what makes their products so special is that they actually create real, tangible results with ingredients that are backed by real clinical studies and shaped by real board-certified doctors. O Positive is committed to breaking down stigmas and addressing issues many women experience, from hormonal health, vaginal health, menopause, and so much more. Their really incredible product, Uro Probiotic, is specially formulated to support vaginal health, which, is basically healthy vaginal pH. And we know that sex, tight clothing, sweat from working out, hormones, periods, all these things can affect the pH balance of our bodies. And so Uro Probiotic helps with all of that, just taking 2 capsules a day. So take proactive care of your health and head to opositive.com/JOL or enter JOL at checkout for 25% off your first purchase. That's opositiv.com/JOL for 25% off.
We will go through cycles in life where we don't feel as connected to ourselves. And when we don't feel as connected to ourselves, when we don't feel centered, when we don't feel in our bodies, when we feel a little lost, when we're living our life in reaction to life and therefore experiencing a lot of stress. Not everyone, but a lot of people, most people, will not feel either they won't feel as sexual because they just don't feel happy, or they'll think, I feel this way, and therefore I'm starting to look at my relationship through the lens of my weakened state. And we all know that when we try to make a decision, or when we look at something, when we're really hungry or really tired or really overwhelmed, that is not when we should be making important decisions. So if we are feeling disconnected from ourselves and therefore feeling a lot of stress, we are at risk of looking at our relationship and not seeing it clearly, because it really does begin with us. So when it comes to maintaining the chemistry in a long-term relationship, We have to think about two things: our relationship with ourselves and the habits that we have or don't have that we need to have with our partner. So like I said, it does begin with us. If you're feeling disconnected from yourself, if you're feeling stressed, you might be someone when you go through stress where you disconnect from your body. And then you are then not, because of that, experiencing levity, lightness, excitement, things, and that's not even sexual. That's just levity, excitement, happiness that then can lead to feeling more physical with your partner. That can lead to you looking at your relationship and your partner through a really good lens. Versus, like I said, when we're stressed and then we don't see anything clearly, and then we start to build a lot of resistance. You see, the greatest enemy to a relationship is resistance. Because resistance is what happens right before we become resentful. Resistance is what happens before we become resentful and then we become contemptuous. And our resistance can be anything, like not wanting to look up from doom scrolling when our partner is telling us a story, or feeling so preoccupied with what you're doing or really busy at work that you don't want to take any time to just connect with your partner. Resistance is old habits of wanting to pull away or shut down whenever you're just even a little bit annoyed. The battle that we face in a relationship will first and foremost be a battle that we have with ourselves, because we have to fight that proclivity that you might have towards getting resistant. And again, it often starts with little habits, and it starts with our own stress. The couples who I know who are the strongest go through, there's ebbs and there's flows to their chemistry, but they are still attracted to each other, and they have certain habits that make it so that they stay connected to each other, because you can't really feel passionate towards someone who you don't really feel connected to. You may be able to have sex with them, but you won't feel that deep, passionate connection with them. Couples who really take the time to stay connected to each other on the day-to-day are the ones who have an easier time sustaining chemistry, not the chemistry from the very beginning, but chemistry long-term. Look, you could easily be in relationships that last 6 months, and as soon as the chemistry starts to go away, you can go to the next one. But guaranteed you will wake up feeling empty, because it will never, ever entirely fulfill you. When we can accept that there is a shift in a relationship where it goes from that high, because in the beginning, there's so much lust, we are drunk and high off of our hormones, and it feels amazing, but it also can feel borderline really, really unstable. And if we are not able to balance that with really getting to know the other person and them getting to know us and really opening up our inner worlds to each other, aka emotional intimacy, you will never, ever truly feel safe with someone. And look, some people will value safety more than chemistry, and some people might value chemistry more than safety. That is, and everyone, that is your prerogative. But if you're wondering why you are getting trapped in this thinking that you can either have one or the other, you've been poorly influenced. It's just not true. And what is true, I should say, is that you're not going to have the high of the beginning last long term. And you can feel really safe with someone who you're also really attracted to, but it's not going to be the same crazy fire that you may have had with someone who was incredibly toxic for you. And so you have to make that choice. You know, I think as we get older, we realize that that fire is too destabilizing and leads to kind of nowhere. And if I'm going to have that fire, I'm not going to try to turn that into a relationship.
This episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. I love Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps to lower your bills so you can grow your savings. And let me tell you something, there is no question that you have some subscriptions that you don't even know about. Because when it comes to spending, sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. The daily coffee habit, the streaming subscriptions, they add up fast and eat a hole in our pocket without us even realizing. And Rocket Money helps you spot those patterns so you can actually do something about them and keep more money in your pocket. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. It is genius. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/onlove today. That's rocketmoney.com/onlove, rocketmoney.com/onlove.
So let me get back to how you sustain chemistry for the long term. You manage your stress differently. When you are feeling disconnected from yourself, chances are you're going to feel disconnected from your partner, and it has nothing to do with them or their relationship. So that is a moment where you really need to tend to your relationship to yourself and figure out what's going on with you and do things that give your life more meaning and excitement. That could mean more sleep. That could mean a hobby, whatever it is. It could mean dealing with certain things that are giving you so much stress and learning how to manage your stress better. Sometimes that's changing your whole perspective. And because oftentimes when we're living our life in reaction to life, aka stress, we are overreacting. And so the thing that we're stressing about, we're stressing disproportionately, and we're seeing it erode our bodies and erode our relationships. So how we are dealing with stress is so major. Then there's little habits. If you're in a relationship, or let's say you're preparing for your next relationship, make it a habit of touching each other often, non-sexually, and eye contact. This is something that I heard Arthur Brooks talk about, and it's something that I've talked about a lot as well. I believe that touch is really important. We got to table completely love languages for a moment. I'm not talking about constant affection. I'm not talking about sexuality right now. I'm talking about the hand on the other person's hand. And when you're talking to each other, and whatever it is, you're not even saying anything. It could be about, where is the coffee? You look at each other in the eyes and you make some sort of physical contact at the same time. This can immediately spark attraction, and it can immediately spark connection. The couples who I know and who I've worked with who are so disconnected from each other, they don't have any daily routines and habits that keep them connected. They're not making eye contact with each other anymore. They're not making any sort of physical, non-sexual physical contact. When they see each other after a day of not seeing each other, whether they were at work or busy, they don't greet each other. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, you know, when I come home, the first thing I do before I even say hi to the kids is I go directly to my partner and give her a huge hug and a kiss. So if you want to save your relationship, if you want to make it stronger, you have to incorporate some really specific habits. Greet each other after you haven't seen each other with a hug and a kiss. Make more deliberate eye contact. Make more deliberate touch, a hand on the shoulder. And again, some of us are more auditory, so we're more sensitive to what we hear. Some of us are more visual, so we're more sensitive to what we see. And some of us are more kinesthetic, so we're more sensitive to what we actually feel. So, however, if we can combine the auditory, the physical, the kinesthetic, and the visual all together, what we can create is a spark of chemistry. So that could mean you're saying something and you're making the eye contact and you're saying it while there's a hand on their shoulder or a hand on their arm or their hand. And then you're not just speaking words, but you're speaking them in a tone and a cadence that either is flirtatious, or sometimes you're speaking in a tone and cadence that's really deliberate. If you know your partner really likes to hear that kind of deliberate tone. Sometimes you're doing it in a tone that's really deep. Sometimes you're doing it in a tone that's really playful. So in other words, you don't have to stick to one tone, but the way that you actually express language, the tone, the cadence, the volume, can either create connection, can either spark a moment of chemistry, or it can create a complete disconnect. Communication is not just articulation. Communication is nonverbal. It's in the visual, it's in the auditory, and it's in the kinesthetic. When you can become, dare I say, masterful of how you are communicating certain things with the person who you're in a relationship with, you will be able to maintain attraction. This person who you've maybe woken up to next to 1,000 times, who you feel like, you know everything about them. If they were just to, again, touch, eye contact, and a certain tone over the simplest thing, can bring back a memory of when the two of you were together and there was fireworks. And then in that moment, you're not going back to that moment, but you are resurrecting an emotional charge between the two of you. And when we get so distracted with our own lives, with our own crap, with our own schedules, with our own need to control our daily routines, then you might be in a relationship where you feel secure enough to know that they're never going to leave you, but you're not going to have a lot of passion. And then you're going to start to question whether or not it's the right relationship, or you're going to question if something's wrong with you, or you're going to question if, the two of you just kind of lost the spark. When so much of it exists in these tiny moments that we all have control over. And you have to know your partner so well. You need to know what they're particularly sensitive to. All right. Again, we want to include all three: the auditory, the visual, and the kinesthetic. But what is your partner particularly sensitive to? And then do more of that. Do they really respond more to your flirty self? Do they respond more to your grounded self? Is it a little bit of everything? This is how we can actually be creative in our relationships. And one of the most surprising lessons that I ever learned, and interesting lessons that I ever learned is about relating, is that once we lose our creativity, we are in a relationship that starts to feel just sort of like there. Safe, there, not fulfilling.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Men today face immense pressure to perform, to provide, and to keep it all together. And it's no wonder that something like 6 million men in the US suffer from depression every year, and it's often undiagnosed. And I just want to say it is okay to struggle. True strength comes from opening up about what you're carrying and doing something about it so that you can be healthy and your best, strongest self for you and for everyone in your life. So if you're a man and you're feeling the weight of the world, talk to someone. Anyone, a friend, a loved one, a therapist. With over 35,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform. And it works with an App Store rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client reviews. It's convenient. You can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button. So as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can help provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/onlove. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/onlove.
So how can you be creative in your relationship so that you can sustain attraction? For the safety side of things, there are some relationships that are just not meant to be relationships. There are some connections that were really just meant to be like a fun adventure or affair. I don't mean an infidelity affair, but an affair. And we turn them into relationships. Like you just can't turn someone who doesn't make you feel safe or there's no stability into a safe partner to you. You just can't. You can't force them into that role. Safety is something just like chemistry. It's co-created. Like in the beginning, the chemistry is just happening to you, but in a long-term relationship, you got to be creative to keep the flame going. Safety is co-created. No one can just give it to you. You're just not handed a safe relationship. Both people have to have a mutually invested priority and interest in making the relationship into something that is sturdy and something that can withstand arguments and something that can withstand time apart if you're, whatever, vacationing differently or, business trips. It can sustain the hard conversations. And that comes with time, and that comes with commitment, and that comes with emotional maturity, and it comes with fighting that resistance that you have inside of you to check out, to shut down, to control, to get distracted. We are our own worst enemies when it comes to our relationships. We have the power to become the hero of a relationship, and we have the power to become the villain of the relationship. So stop looking for safety in the person who was really just supposed to be like a week of fireworks. So I hope this gives you something to think about. You deserve a relationship that has both chemistry and security. You cannot make a relationship work long-term without security and safety. It'll only be the most chaotic, exhausting thing in your life. A long-term relationship will have chemistry that ebbs and flows. You have to be creative to keep the chemistry. The person where you have extreme fireworks, but you literally can't sleep at night and it's toxic, it's it's a matter of just outgrowing even wanting that. But that does not mean that you have to choose between the two, but it does mean that you have to understand what actually creates long-term chemistry. So get creative, try the kinesthetic, the auditory, and the visuals. Try these little things. Watch your stress. Watch how it is that you see your relationship and your partner when you are feeling particularly disconnected from yourself. Know that when you're dating and you're attracted to someone, that can be very unreliable. You don't have to be so scared, but it depends on your relationship history. Just know that you are at risk of throwing all your boundaries and your standards and your self-esteem out the window. So you just need to be self-aware to know what it is that you do when you're attracted to someone. And I would say go slow, because that person who you're attracted to has to also be someone who shares your values and who's on the same page with you and who has the tools to co-create something safe with you. And I hope this helps. Please send this episode to anyone who you think could use it. Most of your married friends or the friends of yours who are in relationships definitely need to listen to this. Though those of you or your friends who only lean towards chemistry and not safety need to listen to this as well. And never hesitate to reach out to us at hello@JillianOnLove.com. And I thank you for listening. Until next time. Jillian on Love is a QCODE production, executive produced by David Henning and Steve Wilson, produced and edited by Travis Howe, music by Will Tendy.